Mr. Jeet, for talking to me, and I really appreciate it. Now, Bangladesh on Monday woke up to news of one of the deadliest days in the history of this country. Give us a sense of what happened there, and what did you hear from your mother directly, the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina?
So on that night, when the protesters were marching on the Prime Minister's residence, you had the troops deployed, the military deployed on the outskirts of Dhaka city to stop the violence, but they had all been instructed not to shoot, not to use deadly force against protesters, because my mother did not want the blood of protesters on her hands. There had already been excessive use of force and violence, and she did not want any more killings. Her government never wanted to use force. Her government never authorized the use of force. The violence was incited by some other groups chanting, "We are Rajakars" in the middle of the night at Dhaka University. That's the equivalent of marching in the middle of Jerusalem chanting, "We are Nazis, we are Nazis." That enraged our students, who then attacked the protesters. The police got involved, tried to stop it. Some police members used excessive force. Our government had already formed a judicial committee to investigate those deaths. We had suspended the police officers. We had immediately instructed our student wing, Chhatra League, to refrain from violence, and the violence had stopped. But when they were marching on, and at that point when they were marching, when they announced that they were going to march on the Prime Minister's residence and they wanted the resignation of this government, my mother's, the Prime Minister's Special Security Force and the Prime Minister's guards, they were fully prepared to defend Gone Bhavan, the Prime Minister's residence. But my mother said, if you do that, hundreds, if not thousands of demonstrators will die. So she did not want them, she did not want bloodshed. So instead they took her to a secure location, and then our Air Force base. At that point, my mother told my aunt, you get on the helicopter, I'm going to stay here. My aunt called me immediately, and I persuaded my mother to leave the country.
Sure. What can you tell us something about that conversation, between a mother and a son, at a situation, which had turned so hostile?
The conversation was brief. What I told her is, no, you cannot stay. She said, no, I'm not leaving my country. I said, look, this is a mob now. These aren't protesters. They are armed. They've already been killing police. They've been attacking police with firearms. So, at this point, if they find you, they're going to kill you, and we do not want that. If you don't want your security forces, if you don't want your special security force to defend you and shoot back, then they're going to kill you. You have to leave the country. We have to keep you safe.
Right. Now, many supporters of your mother have blamed the West for all that unfolded in Bangladesh, over this whole week. Many see a U.S. hand behind this coup, as your mother had a troubled relationship with the U.S. of sorts in the past few years. Now, even the Russians said that the United States used its resources to overthrow your mother's administration. I'd like to get your perspective. What is your sense of this whole situation and where the U.S. stands in this whole plot?
Well, was the U.S. directly involved? I don't know. I have no evidence. But if you look at the situation, the protests, the protests were incited and inflamed every step of the way. When the protests first started, they were peaceful. Our police were guarding them. And the protest wasn't against the government action. Our government had reduced quotas years ago, when there were the first round of protests against quotas. The quotas were reinstated by the courts due to a case. And our government had filed an appeal against that. That means our government was fighting the quotas, and it was going to fight the quotas in the Supreme Court. We were just waiting for the Supreme Court to hear it. So, and then, at that point, someone took a statement of my mother and twisted it online and spread it tremendously online, which is she had said that we don't want families of Rajakars getting government jobs. Now, they twisted that into my mother calling the protesters Rajakars, which she never did. So clearly some agency was very, very active online in using social media to inflame the situation. Then, on the night of July 15th, when our government had appealed to the Supreme Court, when our government had announced that we want the quotas to be rescinded, then someone started marching at Dhaka University in the middle of the night chanting, "We are Rajakar, we are Rajakar." To understand that would be of someone marching in Jerusalem in the middle of the night chanting, "We are Nazis, we are Nazis." This inflamed our student activists. Our student activists attacked the protesters. The police stepped in to try to stop the violence. Some police members used excessive force. Our government immediately told our student activists, our Bangladesh Chhatra League, to back down, not to fight, and the violence was stopped. We formed a judicial commission, a 3-member judicial commission to investigate the deaths, and we suspended all the police officers that used excessive force. So our government did everything to quell the violence. The violence was never ordered by our government. The violence was instigated by some unknown party, specifically in the middle of the night chanting, "We are Rajakar, we are Rajakar." This was done deliberately. And then, that didn't stop there. Then the protesters started attacking the police, and they didn't just attack, they were armed with firearms. Now, where did these protesters get firearms? You can only a foreign intelligence service can supply firearms in a country.
So you're trying to say it is an outside intelligence agency that has instigated this or supported this?
I am that it has instigated it and supported it. I am convinced. Yes.
So you don't have evidence that the U.S. did it, but you definitely think that it is something from the Western side?
Well, I don't know if it's the Western side, but if you look who these protesters have selected, Dr. Yunus, he's a darling of the West. They've been championing him. They've been trying to get him into politics for decades now. So who else? I mean, if the West, and they were the first to congratulate his government and support it. So I think they're making it quite obvious that they probably had some involvement in this whole matter.
Right. So now, your mother publicly did talk about foreign involvement in the past in Bangladesh. Did she privately discuss with you about foreign elements wanting to probably carve out a Christian state or suppress the minorities there?
I mean, no, that has not been the discussion at all. We're more concerned about the immediate situation. I don't think it's to carve out a minority state. I don't think that is something that we've ever thought was the goal in Bangladesh. I've always said that they have tried, especially the U.S. has always wanted a weak government that they can control, and that has always been the case.
Right. Has the U.S. revoked Madam Hasina's visa? Is she applying for asylum? Did she apply for asylum there? I mean, your conversations with her when she was getting onto that chopper, or when she didn't want to get on and you forced her, did you ask her to come here to the U.S.? So what's the status of her visa?
No, no one has revoked her visa. She has not applied for political asylum anywhere. Those are all rumors.
Okay, they're all rumors. You can confirm that.
Right.
Okay. Now, did she have any intel about the coup from elsewhere, her supporters within your intelligence agencies? And at what point do you think that she misread the street protest? Did she misread it, or you think that she just didn't want to open up?
No, I don't think she misread it. The problem was what we didn't expect was someone constantly inciting the protest. That we did whatever we could to, we met all the protesters' demands. Our government met all the protesters' demands, tried to stop the violence immediately when it started. But clearly somebody kept inciting it, and that was something that was unexpected. And especially the protesters. The protesters being with firearms was the most shocking thing. That was completely unexpected.
Right.
And here
Now, India has.
I'm looking at the Bangladeshi newspaper. Well, 232 people at least. The newspapers are reporting at least 232 have been killed since my mother left the country. So that is after. More people have died since she left the country than in the first days of the protests.
Mhm. Now, India has been a strong partner of Bangladesh historically. We've witnessed that, over the years, and the last decade has been really strong. Was Madam Hasina warned by the Indian government about the coup attempt?
I don't know. I really don't know about that. I wasn't part of those conversations, so I cannot comment.
All right. Now that the interim government is in place, and we've seen the U.S. Welcoming UNICEF's, government, interim government, what are your views on this government and the caretaker of this government?
I mean, actually, in a way, I welcome it because these people have been championed by the minority, by the elite, and by the West. I personally believe, having seen the functioning of government and having served as a government, as an honorary advisor to the government, that it is one thing to be appointed to handpicked and to be handpicked and appointed to a position. It's a whole other thing to govern, and without political experience, without governance experience, it is very, very difficult to run a country. So I'm actually curious to see how they perform, whether they are even capable of running the country. However, the point is that our Supreme Court has ruled, and our Constitution says that a non-elected government cannot run a country, even for 1 minute. Right now, this is an unconstitutional government. They are not elected. So there is no democracy in Bangladesh. So they are talking about democracy, but there is no democracy. So what do you have to do if you want to have democracy? You have to have elections. And our Constitution is very clear on this provision that from the day Parliament is dissolved, new elections have to be held within 90 days. There is no way around it. There is no such thing as an interim government in the Constitution which can stay in power beyond 90 days. That does not exist. So I believe that this government's priority should be to hold elections as soon as possible. And definitely it has to be held within 90 days.
Right. Sorry to interrupt you there.
The elections have to be held within 90 days. That's as per our Constitution.
Right. Now that you're talking about elections, let me ask you, if you've had any conversations with your mother, if she will ever return, if elections are held in a free and fair manner, does she still have a following in the party, or do you think that they see her as a liability like most critics say?
Not at all. I think that she remains the most popular person in Bangladesh. I don't think that even the people that I talked to who were saying that no, perhaps she should resign for the good of the country. Now they're saying, oh no, without the Awami League, we cannot. Awami League was the best government we've had. We cannot. We want the Awami League back. So people are already starting to regret it. Look, were there mistakes made by our government? Of course. Were they all ordered by my mother? No. Government, and this is something that the interim government is going to realize. Government machinery is a very big machinery. There are many people in places of authority who sometimes abuse their authority. Our job should be to bring them to justice. I have personally believed that whatever has to be done by the book, according to the law, according to the Constitution. If there are people in our government that violated the law, that did illegal things, they should be brought to justice. There were, during our government's term, members of our elite police force, the Rapid Action Battalion, one officer who was the son-in-law of a sitting minister of our government, he was convicted of extrajudicial killings and sent to prison. This is a son-in-law of our own minister that we sent to prison. So, by all means, if there are people in our government that did illegal things, they should be brought to justice. But you cannot blame my mother for all of it. Government is a very, very big machine.
Okay. Let's just focus to the opposition in Bangladesh. The strongest opposition in the country, headed by Khalida Zia. You don't see her right now in the current political landscape. The BNP did not form the government. Why so? Do you have any understanding of how this is going to probably play out in the upcoming days?
I have actually been very encouraged by Mrs. Khalida Zia's first statement, where she stated that let us forget the past, let bygones be bygones. We will not pursue the politics of vengeance. We want to restore democracy and ensure the future of Bangladesh. That is what I want as well. That is what the Awami League wants as well. We are happy to sit with the BNP because the reality is this. We are the two largest parties in Bangladesh. In any political system, that is what you end up with. Whenever there is democracy, power is going to transition from time to time between these two parties. That is inevitable. Someday we will be in the opposition, someday they will be in the opposition. We can agree to disagree, but we have to work together democratically. And so I say to the BNP, let us work together, let us try to restore democracy to Bangladesh, and let us agree to let bygones be bygones. And from now on, we can agree to disagree, we can argue at each other, but we will govern democratically for the future of Bangladesh and always hold free and fair elections. That is my goal. I want free and fair elections in Bangladesh.
Right. The visuals that played out, on Monday of vandalizing of the Mujib statues, the museum, have Madam Hasina's actions or things that didn't go right in this administration in any way tarnished his legacy? At least that's what the students and the critics are saying at this point.
Of course they're saying that, but Sheikh Hasina is not Sheikh Mujib, just as I am not Sheikh Hasina. We are our own individuals. So my grandfather's legacy is unblemished. He led the independence. You cannot deny that. And even the killers of 1975 who murdered my entire family, they did not desecrate his home the way these mob, I wouldn't call them protesters, I would call them a mob. Because if you believe in democracy, if you're talking about tarnishing legacy, what have they done? They have been killing and burning and looting. These are the people that are claimed to be democratic. They're criticizing my mother's legacy. This is worse than the pot calling the kettle black. You are nothing but a mob. You are desecrating everything. You are killing people blatantly. So if you want to have justice for the killings of July 15th, there have to be justice for the killings now as well. So there should be trials for everybody, for both sides. Let us have that in Bangladesh. Let us have justice. Let us have trials for all of the killing in Bangladesh. Not just on one side, but from both sides. And for all the civilians that have been killed, for the minorities that have been killed, for our leaders that have been killed. Let us have justice for all of this. I welcome it.
Right. Ever since, Bangladesh got its independence, it was all about Jai Bangla, which is now being replaced by Bismillah Bangladesh. Some are saying that the secular nature of this government, India's government, is gone. Do you agree?
I think you have answered your own question. I mean, Bismillah Bangladesh, I have never heard that before. That is not our slogan. I don't think the people of our country will accept that. So, and yes, clearly they're showing that they're not secular at all. They claim to be secular, but if they're saying Bismillah Bangladesh from Joy Bangladesh, Joy Bangla, then that is not secular at all.
Give us a sense of the situation of the minorities, especially the Hindus in Bangladesh. Your friends, people who you have known for so many years. Do you have any personal accounts that you can share with us? Do you think that the secular fabric of this country, of your country, is completely wiped off at this point?
No, it is not wiped off. This is the mistake people make again and again. It is not wiped off. Look, it's been a week. It has been less than a week. You are not going to eliminate, you know, Awami League and BNP. Between them it's a country of 170 million people. Between Awami League has tens of millions of supporters and followers. You're not going to eliminate their ideology overnight, no matter what you do. And the only way to test it, really, to test your question, is to have elections. Let us see what the people of the country want. So until that happens, until there are elections, no, I do not believe that, because they tried it in 1975. They tried to Islamize the country, but look what happened. The Awami League was voted back, people voted for secularism, and we had secularism for 15 years again. 20 years total if you count my mother's first term. So just because of the chaos of 1 week, you cannot say that the secular nature of the country has disappeared. But I will say this. If the Awami League is elected back to power, which I believe if elections were held in the near future, the Awami League will be, we will restore the secular nature of the country. That we have proven we have done it for 15 years, and we will do so again.
Yeah. What is your message to the government of India, and what are your expectations, as being Bangladesh's strongest supporter in the region?
My message to the government of India, first of all, is my personal gratitude to Prime Minister Modi for his government's quick action in saving my mother's life. I am eternally grateful to. My second message is that India needs to take a leadership role in the world, not let other foreign powers dictate the situation, because this is India's neighborhood. This is India's eastern side. It is a proven track record that no one can deny that the Awami League government, Sheikh Hasina's government, kept peace in Bangladesh, kept economic growth, stopped insurgency, and kept the eastern side of our subcontinent stable. And we are the only government that has proven we can do it. No one else has. Other governments have tried, they have failed. So if you want stability and security, your best bet is the Awami League. Now, obviously, you cannot directly support a party, but what you can do is support and demand democracy, which is, and constitutional democracy, which is elections within 90 days. If elections are held within 90 days, I am confident that the Awami League will still win. And that is the only thing that will ensure stability in Bangladesh, security, and protection of the minorities. That is the only thing that will ensure it.
Well, now you're living here in Washington. Talk to us about if the U.S. has reached out to you as a private citizen or somebody, who is from Bangladesh, who is the son of the former prime minister. Have you heard back from the government here?
No, I have not. I stopped being involved in politics many years ago, and so I have not been in touch with anyone, and no one's been in touch with me. I am now just talking to our party people as well as the media, because it is ultimately the people of Bangladesh that will decide. I know Dr. Yunus is the US's darling, but he does not have the people's mandate. I have far more followers than he does in Bangladesh. So I believe in democracy. I have no political ambition. I never have. I don't wish to be prime minister, but it will be up to my party to decide who they want to lead them. But my job, my goal, my personal goal is to restore democracy in Bangladesh. That is my only goal.
Right. My last question, could you share your latest conversation with your mother about, what she plans to do in the days ahead? Seeking asylum, which country is she looking at? There are talks about Russia, there are talks about other countries. Can you give us a sense of what could be her next step?
No, there's nothing. All of those stories that you're hearing, they're just rumors. My mother has not reached out to any country. She has not applied for asylum anywhere. She wants to go back to Bangladesh, whether it is to be in politics or to retire she had been telling me for years that this was her last term. She will go back to Bangladesh. She wants to live in her village home and retire. That is her ultimate goal. And she just wants to be home. She just wants to go home. That's all.
All right. On that note, thank you so much for talking to and I really appreciated you spending that much time with us and having this conversation with us.
Thank you very much.